All right, so let me ask you this. What is your secret weapon when it comes to guitar amps? Like, what is the thing that you think to yourself when someone asks you, dude, how the heck did you get that tone right there? And you just say, oh my gosh, I just plug into that amp every time. You see, for me to answer that question, we kind of have to pull the clock back about a year. You see, I was in this kind of weird place when it comes to guitar tones and just my everyday practice routine because I had started making these weird little comedy videos on a site called YouTube.
No, dude, say it again. Say it again. I've never heard of those things. What did you call them? Humbuckers? What is that?
You see, my goal was to just pump out pretty much as much content as possible, like 2 or 3 videos a week while still maintaining like a decent level of quality. And in order to do that, I would really just plug my guitar straight into my interface, go into like a Logic Clean preset that I had made and just learn the riffs from there and get going. Dude, what do you mean I have to learn the whole song? But one interesting thing happened. You see, one of my friends had actually suggested an amp to me. The amp that he suggested was called a Supro Delta King. It was this amp with a 1x12 speaker, and I saw that online whenever it was listed in the title, it always had something like the ultimate bedroom amp, or this is the small living room amp that you need. So I was like, okay. When it was finally shipped out to my house, I got to open it for the first time. I got to plug it in, use it, record it, and I found that I really enjoyed the tones of that amp. It was kind of like everyone was saying, it had that cool living room sort of broken up sound that you can only get from a small amp. And it was one of the smallest amps that I've owned in my life. And that sort of presented this conundrum for me internally. And you might be like, Mike, please explain yourself why. And I'll tell you why. Because in my mind, in my idealized mind, I had always thought to myself, 100-watt amp. That is the goal. No, wait, 500-watt amp. An amp so loud that you can push it just in your bedroom, you crank it all the way up, and all of your neighbors and even the mayor, yes, the mayor of this specific town, will run to your house just to congratulate you on getting the perfect tone. And all of my neighbors would like immediately apologize because they'll just be like, oh my gosh, we didn't know you were just trying to get the perfect tone all this time. Yeah, that's how my mind works. I kind of go on these crazy like JD from Scrubs imagination, daydream tangents a lot of the time. But I kind of started to realize that that's not the real world. And a lot of that I think just came because of just looking up different amps online and seeing 100-watt, 200-watt, whatever these like very big solid state amps could do. I started to really think about it, and I started to notice there's never really been a time in my life where I've ever needed 100 watts personally. And also I started to remember once I really started plugging that amp in that 15 watts can get very loud. I started to really ask myself one of the big questions that it had been a long time since I had asked. I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, what do you actually need in an amp? And it reminded me of why I like that Supro Delta King so much. At 15 watts, it was perfect for what I needed.
9 months later.
So the new year 2023 came and I started to ask myself that question again, like, what do you right now need in an amp? And I sort of found it. I haven't told many people about it, but I've shown them in sort of this weird way. You see right back there, you see in a couple of videos there's been this amp that I haven't quite gotten to talk about yet, but you might have seen glimpses of it because it's been in the back right there. I don't know if you noticed it. Will this dude just answer the question? What do you look for in an amp? Come on, I got the casserole burning. All right, dude, that was kind of rude, but I'll answer this brood with just one word: adaptability. Now, here's kind of what I mean when I say adaptability, and you might be saying to yourself, Mike, we get it. You need it to be able to adapt to different situations and be able to do high gain tones and low gain tones and sound good in both situations, but that's not what I mean right now. When I say adaptability, I mean I need it to be able to work in multiple different environments. So it's not necessarily about styles of playing, but actual places where I'll be playing. Does it have the versatility to be able to be used in different situations? And that's when I discovered the Supro Amulet, this amp right here. And you might be like, Mike, I'm sure that amp sounds great, but what makes that amp so special to what you were talking about before with adaptability? And I'll tell you, it's very simple. It's called attenuation. Now, I've been obsessed with attenuators for quite a long time, but it's really been about cab IRs and load boxes, things like an aux box, that you would plug the back speaker of your amp out into the aux box and be able to do some silent recording. One of the things I found more recently is that certain amps actually have attenuators built into the actual amp. And I've seen that more on solid state amps, but having that in a tube amp recently excited me way more than I thought it ever could, because now we get the chance, even in a small room like this, to play with miking and see the actual tones that we can get with 1 watt. Because 1 watt to me is not necessarily just about not annoying your neighbors. I think it can actually get you a variety of tones. So dude, that was literally 1 watt. 1 watt. And like, it wasn't overpowering like my neighbors or anything, but for what I needed here, 1 watt was more than enough to get some great tones. And I was listening to it back, like, that was awesome. But now I'm gonna turn it up to like 15. All right, so it is cool seeing the difference between 1 watt and 15 watts. You can definitely feel the power in the 15 watts. Like I was saying before, the 1 watt is not quiet when you really crank the volume. So once I turned the gain up a little bit, I was able to keep it on 1 watt, and I love the sound of that, especially in this room. But the watt conversation is so interesting. I feel like with anything, it just depends on what you want with the actual guitar tone. Like, I think 1 watt would actually be preferable if I was doing some of my funkier stuff and if I had like some chorus on that. So it sounded really good and it was really fun to play through, but like I said before, how good something sounds is kind of the baseline recently that I've been making about whether or not I would use an amp or call it like my go-to or something of that nature. It gets a lot deeper into, like I said before, versatility and just like how many different places can I use this amp, not just how many different tones. Being able to play with the attenuation, being able to play with the actual like 1 watt, 5 watt, 15 watt, and seeing that like this is something not just I could use in this bedroom for like recording or trying to not annoy the crap out of my neighbors, but seeing like how I can take it outside and see how much versatility I can get with those not just higher gain settings, but with higher output wattage wise. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. It was so fun to get to like review this amp and just go over what I actually look for in a guitar and just see like, oh, those are the things that I used to not really care about, and these are the things that I care about now. If you want to know anything more about the Supro amulet or about any of the gear that I used in this video, make sure to check out the links in the description. It's one of the best ways to support the channel if that's something you want to do, or if you're just curious about any of those tones, make sure to check out those links. Make sure to like and subscribe if you had a good time, and most important of all, like most important, have a fantastic day. You will be there every little step I make.